Hello and welcome to today's live on whether to hit or not to hit. So we're going to give a few minutes before people log on and then we get cracking into the content. So today's topic is going to be on high intensity interval training, 5 things that you need to know about it. Now over the last while, particularly with the lockdowns, people are engaging in high intensity interval training and I don't think they're fully aware of the ramifications of it from a biomechanical point of view, from a hormonal point of view, and that's what we're going to focus on over the next five points we're going to cover. So we're going to give it a few minutes and then we're going to get cracking into the content. So thank you all guys for joining in. And if there is questions, please do let me know and I can try to answer them towards the end. But there's 5 key points that we're going to cover. So first of all, there's one of the best books on the market here is The Science and Application of High Intensity Interval Training. It is the best book on the market. So for coaches out there that are looking to upskill themselves in this field, this is the go-to book. What I would say about the book, unless you're training with high-level athletes, it's not that applicable when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to clientele, from a weight loss point of view or body composition, but it is the best book on the market when it comes to strength and conditioning interval training. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what high intensity interval training actually is. What people think it is online and what it actually is are two very different things. High intensity in the strength and conditioning world means that it's a high percentage of load, a high amount of effort, explosive, type 2B muscle fibers. Unfortunately, a lot of high intensity interval training that people are doing online is what's called high density training. And high density training, density for those guys who are not familiar with the term, means getting a lot of work done in a shorter space of time. So it's cutting down rest to get more work done. Now, so for example, if I said to you a Tabata training method or a Tabata training method where you do 20 seconds of work followed by 10 seconds of rest repeated 8 times, that is interval training. It is not high intensity interval training where people think it's HIIT training because they're working really hard and you've got less rest. There's no way that the quality of work and the amount of effort that you can do in 20 seconds can be repeated with 10 seconds rest. Yes, you will get fatigued. Yes, you will get sweaty. But as I said to the guys in the gym, just because you get sweaty doesn't mean you're getting results. Now, that's not a problem if you're looking to lose weight, body composition is your goal, or fitness is your goal, but it technically isn't what we call high intensity. It is interval training, and the goal of that type of training, where you have half the amount of rest in relation to the amount of work you're doing, is going to improve the capacity of the system. It's going to improve your overall fitness. Now, I did a webinar last weekend and fitness is a very broad term and I'm just going to cover it shortly here. Fitness is muscle specific. So just because you're fit, I think Jose's on there from IWSN, just because you're fit to paddleboard doesn't mean you're fit to run. Just because you're fit to run doesn't mean you're fit to cycle. Just because you're fit to box doesn't mean you're fit to do jiu-jitsu. So fitness is very muscle specific and then it's very contraction specific, and I'm not going to get down that road because I'll be here all day. But needless to say, when you're doing interval training, there's a clear definition between high density training, interval training and high intensity interval training. They're not all the same thing, and as a professional coach, when I see people write that out, I cringe a little bit. I'm not saying that it's a bad way to say it, but it's only interval training. Now, the issue is when you do high density training, the second point that I want to talk about is there's a great coach over in America. He's called Coach Kavanagh, and he's a sprint coach. Technically, he does a lot of different things. The sprint coaching is one of the things that he focuses on, and he has this very simple way of assessing people's sprint mechanics. And he says this can be used in any way, shape, or form. You can do this to assess movement or biomechanics. It's static control. Can you statically hold your ankle, knee, and hip in position? Could you balance on one leg? Then he has people walk and he sees their gait and see how they move in a slow manner. And then he speeds them up, rather than having someone sprint and then trying to assess them. So statically, just standing there, then he has them move slow and then he assesses them and then he has them move fast. I see people doing HIIT training or HIIT training online and they're jumping onto boxes. They're doing burpees, they're doing squat jumps, they're doing dynamic lunges, they're doing jumping lunges, they're doing clapping press-ups, they're doing all these dynamic movements, and they don't have the stability to control the joints in a static manner, let alone a slow manner, let alone an explosive dynamic manner. And the problem there is that when you go to do ballistic and dynamic movements, you need to have the joint controlled. You need to have the support of the ankle, knee, hips, the core, the posture. Everything needs to be working as a well-oiled machine to break that impact of the force, to be able to execute the movement without wearing and tearing on joints and muscles that necessarily shouldn't be the major stabilizers. So we have what's called prime movers, we have agonists, antagonists, we have neutralizers, fixators, stabilizers, and they all need to work together. And they can work together, and we need to train them to do that. But jumping straight into an advanced movement, like jumping onto a box or jumping off a box, it's opened the risk of injury massively. So with clients at home, I realise that when you're a coach and you're training people at home, you're not there to see them. But when you are a coach and you've done one-to-one training and one-to-one conditioning for athletes for years, and then you see people just giving generic programs online, you have to step back and say, well, what's the risk to reward benefit? Yes, I could get this person to do a burpee, but the chances are this person can have, instability in the knee. They could have had ACL issues, or it could be a woman that's after having a baby, and dynamic and jumping movements isn't going to be ideal for her pelvic floor. So HIIT training, I realise when you read the research, it is much more beneficial than long steady state cardio, and it lends itself to anti-aging and muscle mass and tone and so on, if it's true high intensity interval training. But if it's not, and it's high density training, and if you do that in conjunction with very dynamic movements that people don't have the joint control over, you're open the risk of injury up. Now there's two things that will hamper anybody's fitness or anybody's performance. It's injury and illness. So if you do get a knee injury, you do get a low back injury, you do get an ankle injury, it's going to really impact on your performance later down the line when you do go back into a gym, or when you do go back to playing your sport. You're going to be, nursing and managing that injury for a long time. So it's pivotal that you pick the correct exercise to suit the person where they are, and the correct exercise prescription. That's why it's called exercise prescription. If you went into a local pharmacy or a chemist and on a piece of paper it said drugs, what's the chemist going to give you? They don't know. So the same thing is with exercise. It has to be specific to the person. So if you don't know this person, well, then you should err on the side of caution and maybe not give them an exercise that maybe increase the risk of injury. Now, having said that, like way back when in college, when we were actually, learning exercises, there always should be a tiered method. This is option 1, this is option 2, and this is progression number 3. So there's always should be a regression. So from a professional point of view, if you're giving somebody an exercise, there has to be a way that they can develop it. A friend of mine, Mike Finch, he has a certification called Animal Flow, where he teaches people, animal movements and gymnastic movements and yoga and stuff like that. It can be very advanced, but what he's done exceptionally well is he has a progression formula. He has a way of taking it from a very, very, very low level to a very high level, and he can teach that in a very, simple way. The same way should be if someone's doing a jumping jack. Like, there's loads of options of doing a jumping jack that don't necessarily need to be high impact. It can be low impact to start off and then progress to very advanced exercises. But when I see coaches out there, they're not doing that. And again, one sweep doesn't give you a cavity. So just doing one exercise program that's not ideal for your body is not going to necessarily have wear and tear. But if you constantly do that, and then when people have this misalignment, have this muscular imbalance, when they go outside to do other activities, it's going to wear on them. Like the tires in your car, if your one tire is off a little bit, it's going to wear, and the balancing is going to be off, the steering wheel is going to shake, and then the more and more you drive that car, the more you're wearing it down. Like when people come in, let's say for example, one of the biggest things I see is muscular imbalance. So this is the third point. First point, we need to know what high intensity interval training is. We need to know what high density training is. Second of all, we need to make sure we assess people statically, slowly, and then we add speed, not the other way around. And the next thing is muscular imbalance. So if I was to ask you your top 3 HIIT exercises off the top of your head, let me think. Squat jumps, running, burpees, and it's quad. If somebody is sitting down all day at a desk or at a Zoom call or a Teams meeting, they're sitting down all the time. One of your quadriceps, your rectus femoris, is also involved heavily in hip flexion. So if you're giving people exercises that are compounding an already imbalanced body because they've been sitting all day, or your program is all quad dominant because you want people to get sweaty and get the heart rate up, that is not important. The heart rate and getting people sweaty is not an indication of someone remodeling their body. Now, I'm not going to go off on one, but we need to have a good symmetry with muscle activation. For every quad exercise we do a hamstring exercise. For every chest exercise we do an upper back exercise. Bicep and tricep. These are simple things. Now, it's not always a 1-to-1 ratio, but there has to be, an overall general approach that we don't always do, chest all the time and quads all the time, because that is going to compromise posture, and that is going to compromise joint alignment. So again, we need to understand what muscular balance is and how to offset it if we are training at home. Well, you realise when people are at home, they may not have access to the same equipment, but that doesn't mean we have to do squats every day and press ups every day. That's going to wreck your shoulders, and that's going to compromise the patella tracking and cause, quad ham ratio imbalance, and then track up to the hip and then track down to the ankle. So then you do go out running, your hamstrings are chronically tight because they haven't been conditioned the same way your quadriceps have. And because you've been doing certain squats a certain way, your patella tracking is going to compromise, and then there's going to be a whole lot of issues there when it comes to instability in the knee. The fourth point is, over the first lockdown, I was lucky enough to do a lot of lab testing here in the clinic. And then when I seen people after the first lockdown, then after the second lockdown, and then I talked to trainers online with their clients. When you do high intensity, or what people feel is high intensity interval training, it tends to be very hormonally stressful. And when you're already, I'm not going to say fragile is the wrong word, but when your resilience is compromised, the body's ability to recover from exercise is compromised. So for example, the bigger hole that you dig, the harder it is to get out of it. So when you really smash yourself in the gym, or smash yourself in your living room, or you're outside doing lots of intervals, you're outside doing a lot of cardio, there's a cost to the body for that. There's a cost from a hormonal point of view. And a lot of times people can bounce back to that, and a lot of times they can't. So we need to make sure that we're recovering. We need to make sure that we're hormonally balanced enough to be able to recover from the exercise. And just to go off a small bit here, there's a great coach by the name of Ian King, and he talks about the training effect. And the training effect is where someone trains, the body remodels, recovers, adapts, we have a training effect. Just because you train doesn't mean you're going to get the benefits. Just because you go out on the bike doesn't mean you're going to get fitter. The body needs to have that stimulus, it needs the recovery time, and it needs the adaptation from a physiological point of view or from a hormonal point of view to get better at that. And if you don't, there's going to be an issue. So, next point is you need to evaluate how you're feeling. A lot of people are pushing themselves through training that they don't necessarily feel that well from. So assess how well your ankles are feeling. Assess how well your knees are feeling. Is your body feeling like it's aching and paining every time you get up? Does it take you an hour in the morning before your body feels okay? Do you feel like you got rust in your body? And if you do, that may mean that the exercise you're doing is compounding a problem. It's eroding your body. So listen to your body, have a sense of feeling how well your body is responding to the program, and then you can modify it. If you have a coach online, if you have someone giving you some workouts online, just say to them, my knees aren't feeling the same way, is there any way I can modify the workout? My heart rate is going too high, it's not coming back down, is there any way I can change that? And that's why in this field, we like to think that we're professional, but we need to conduct ourselves in a professional way. Having more people on a Zoom meeting or having more people in a training session doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a better service. And in my opinion, it tends to hamper it. That's why all our centres are all mainly one-to-one centres, because we like to deal with it on a one-to-one basis. Yes, there's a small groups. That's not to say you can't do small groups, but the bigger number you have online, the less contact you have, the less correction, the less coaching, and the less personalised the approach can be. So sometimes if someone has a niggle or has a instability, it may not be addressed or adhered to in online training, which is why that's why a little chat beforehand or afterwards, or maybe give some feedback to the coach following the training session can really help. And then the last point there is going to be on your personalising your approach. So look at what you can do in your schedule. How many times a week can you train? What equipment have you got exposure to? And making sure that you're fitting your program to suit your personality and your body shape, rather than the other way around. A lot of people are forcing programs onto clients that don't actually have the capability of doing it correctly, and they're going to do more damage than good. And then they come back to the gym, they're hormonally depleted, their immune system is compromised, they're muscularly imbalanced, they've been forcing the body into doing a training program that they're not really responding to. So that can really, again, over time, erode the body. So let's review those 5 points again, nice and quick. Make sure that we understand the difference between high intensity interval training and high density training. Second of all, we want to make sure that we assess people statically, slowly, and then with speed before we jump into dynamic movements that are traditionally used in HIIT training, like jumping and burpees and jumping lunges and so on. Next of all, we want to make sure that we have muscular balance throughout the body. The exercises that we pick are specific to muscular balance, that we're not always picking the same muscle group all the time, causing more imbalance in the body. 14th area is there is always a hormonal cost of any program that you do. So it's important we have this, not we have it, but in the principles of strength and conditioning, we have the period of delayed transformation. And what that means is for every block of training you do, it's essential that when you move on to the next block that you have some form of stress modification. The stress modification is a subtle change in exercise sequence, repetitions, tempo, time under tension, work to rest ratio, total session time, muscle contraction, whatever it may be. There's a subtle change so the body has a stress modification so it can remodel the body from the previous program. So program A, we change something into program B, and while we're doing program B, our body's getting better at program A. But if you don't have any prescription, you're just doing a random, sweaty, kick-ass program, you may not necessarily have that ability to modify the program because you don't know what you did in the last workout. So it's very important that we have this periodization in your program. And if you feel periodization is a really big word, well then maybe you shouldn't be writing programs for clients, because it's essential that we have that system that we can change the block of training. And a subtle change, maybe from going from one exercise on its own to 3 exercises in a row. Or maybe we do 2 exercises in a row and then we finish those and move over to the second one. Or we, instead of doing 10 reps, we do 15 reps. It's a very simple intervention, but the clients will get constant results from it because we're having that overload and we're having what we call undulating periodization. Next of all is make sure our hormonal costs, that we're sleeping okay, we're balancing our blood sugars, that we're not feeling the immune system is going down, that we're not being worn down by forcing ourselves to do these workouts that may not ultimately be the best for us at this current climate. Next of all, evaluate how you feel. How's your body feeling? How's your headspace feeling? What's your mood like? A lot of times when people are exercising, they want to switch off. They don't necessarily want to be focusing too much on things. But if you feel like your training is wearing you down, you feel like your ankles, your knees, your hips are worn down from doing this dynamic movements, you know, you have to get your session in, you have to get your interval training session in on your Zoom. And over time, that can wear the body down. So listen to your body. Making sure we're getting the right amount of sleep, making sure we're having our blood sugar control, making sure we're exercising and we're not being worn down from it. Now, with high intensity interval training, it can be done more often because the volume isn't so high, but I would suggest no more than 2 days in a row and having some form of active recovery, a flotation, a salt bath, contrast shower, you know, massage going. They're all good options that you can do nowadays. And the last one there is making sure you're personalizing your approach. Your plan to health and fitness, your plan to nutrition, your plan for enhancing your lifestyle is specific to you. Making sure that you take advice from professionals online, and a lot of people out there, you know, trying to get their programs out there. And this is the thing, they're trying to get their programs out there to other people, and there's their programs, where it should be about getting themselves out to help people develop their own programs. And that's what we need to do in this industry, is to empower people to be able to build nutrition, a lifestyle, a training program to suit them, not the other way around. I'm not going to sell you a program that I've developed because I've made it and I want to sell it to people. I want to give you the skills and the capabilities of designing your own program to suit you, and for coaches to have the skills and knowledge to develop that. And on that side note, today I will be launching my brand new Modified Strongman Training Certification Program. And the reason why I put this together is it combines training people in the gym and outside the gym, which I think is going to be something that's going to happen further down the line. It gives you the skill sets to be able to be a qualified coach when it comes to using these tools. In conjunction with that, you're going to get your training when it comes to program design, corrective exercise, and how to train groups. So not only do you get the certification as a strongman training coach, but you get the program design, corrective exercise, group training. Then when things do open up, I'll have you here in Ireland and we'll put you through a strongman training live workshop. What will that be like? Getting back into an actual live event would be phenomenal. And then the last thing, or the 6th component of the certification, will be a coaches community where we get online like this and we discuss case studies. We talk about programs, how to assess nutrition when it comes to modified strongman training, corrective exercise, how to do the exercise technique, how to train a rugby team or a soccer team with this form of training. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Again, I try to keep it nice and short. 5 little tips when it comes to high intensity interval training and how what people think it is in the industry and what it actually is in the textbooks, and when it comes to research is not the same thing. However, once we're taking a professional approach, once we're listening to our clients, once we're making sure we balance the symmetry of muscle mass, we're not taking too much of a hormonal stress on our clients, and we're getting feedback on how the clients are managing the workout, that will give us a better insight into how to get better results with our clients, help them have better bodies and live that a little bit longer. So thank you so much for your time, guys. What I'll do is I'll save this and I'll upload it and keep it on the site so you can share it with your friends or other co-workers you feel might benefit from the information. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.